All right, today I'm going to have a tutorial on doing a really easy sponged gradient, okay? Just using two colors so that your cleanup isn't too bad. To be honest, most of the time I use the blank space on Lena Nail Art Supply Make Your Mark 03 plate, but it's really hard to get good blending that way. They come out looking more like stripes than they do gradient. So if I want to get a nice gradient, then the sponge is the way to go. And there's different sponges you can use. The kitchen sponge works, but for something like this, I'm using these shimmers and I actually want a pretty subtle effect. I'm going to just use these two colors. And so what I'm going to do is look at my nail sideways and just sort of try to line up the halfway mark. Then I'm going to just sort of roll that on, okay, gently, right? And that gives me a first pass. And again, it's pretty subtle, but that's okay, because I want a pretty subtle one, and I'm gonna do one more pass anyway. I've done a pass on all the others, and now I'm gonna do the second pass. And actually, I'm gonna explain the polishes I'm using. I'm using the Bee's Knees My Little Pony collection, the one that's going to be available on Color for Nails, exclusive to Color for Nails on August 20th. That's Rarity, and the purple I'm using is Twilight Sparkle. And I will say that I rarely used to buy whole collections because I just didn't like all the colors in a collection. But I've sort of changed my tune about that since I've been receiving polishes for review, because a lot of people ask, like, how do you figure out the color combinations you're going to use, or what have you. And buying collections, usually when they have a theme like this, takes all the guesswork out of it, because the makers have done the work for you. Like, I have used all 5 of the polishes in this collection, and it was the same for the last collection I reviewed, which is the Wildflower Lacquer one. But they've done all the work. Like, these finishes are very similar on all 5 of them, okay, with an insane amount of shimmer, which I love, and the colors all work together. So it really just takes the guesswork out of combining colors. You can combine any 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of the colors. So now I'm going to go in and do another pass. Okay. And starting with my pinky, because that's where I started with. And I'm going to try to go in a slightly different spot from where I did last time. Okay. Just sort of blend those colors a little bit more. And again, it's a subtle gradient, but that's what I'm going for. So I am happy with that. And even though I have my liquid latex on around the whole nail, you'll see that I really only have a little bit just around the end of my nail to for cleanup, right? So I really like this method if you're only going to use, if you're happy just using just two colors for the gradient. If you do 3, then it's obviously going to be a little more difficult, but. And I think some of you will ask, well, isn't it going to be difference in thickness there? And it is a tiny bit, but if you're like me and tend to polish a little bit more heavily near the cuticle, because that's where you have the most amount of polish when you first apply it to the nail, then it's really not noticeable. And especially after you apply top coat. So that's not a huge concern for me. Okay, and then last one. Okay. And there you go. So that's a nice, easy, simple gradient to do. And normally, and I did it all over because now I can stamp over the whole nail and then take off the liquid latex, but I am probably going to remove this and take a pic with top coat just for, since I did a tutorial on it, just to show you the finished result. So then I'll reapply latex for the stamping bit. All right, so I have my gradient done and a bit of clear latex around the nail, okay? And so now what I'm gonna do is do a little stamping, okay? And I'm using Nicole Diary Tattoo Collection ND-004. And I really love this plate and all the images on there. I have a lot of ideas for how I want to use this plate, and particularly those little swirls up there. But for today, I'm going to be using this image here, and I'm going to turn it this way. All right. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way. Okay. And I'm using just a black, the Corazon Kaleidoscope black today. And I have stamped this image on a bunch of different stampers. That's the Born Pretty one. This is the Lantern and Wren Simply Silver. This is the Hit the Bottle Double Shot, both of them. And I'm going to be doing the last one and demonstrating on the Creative Shop Hollow Glassy stamper. So I'm just going to stamp as usual. Okay. And pick up. Okay. And I don't want these images. Okay, so I'm just picking up those little bits that I don't want there. I don't really need to remove this because that's not going to be in my way, but just for ease. And I learned this from Moira stamping, just to use the back of a scraper. Right after you've scraped, you still sort of have it nearby, so use that to pick up the images, and if you're fast enough, it'll just stick to the stamper. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is lead light, reverse stamp a little and color these in. I'm just going to color in these images. And like I mentioned before, so I have used 2 of the colors of the Bee's Knees My Little Pony collection already. And I'm going to be adding a 3rd color to it from the collection. And it's the green, which is Spike, okay? Again, it's just really easy to do that because I know all these colors go well together. So I'm going to be using a dotting tool this time to color in, and sometimes a dotting tool works best and sometimes a brush works best. It really just sort of depends on the formula of the polish or the paint or whatever it is that you're using to color in. Sometimes, you know, and people have a preference for sure as to what works best for them, but I sort of alternate depending upon what works best. So I find it easier to lay down a couple of drops and then just fill in the areas that I want. Okay, and just being light with it because you don't want to touch down a lot, because I didn't top coat this image as you can tell. And so I don't want to smear or pick up the stamped image at all. And I really like doing it on these clear stampers because I like being able to flip it over and being able to see what I missed. And so that's a really nice thing. I also like being able to twirl the image around, okay, so that I can always work at the angle that I want to. Like for me to work outside in and being able to see that outer edge is really nice. So it's easier for me to just twirl it And basically I'm coloring it for, you know, the same each time, kind of. So it's easier this way for me. Okay. All right, almost done. And then check it again. All right, then I'm gonna add a dot of the purple that I've already used on the gradient, just to bring that back in. And this is Twilight Sparkle, okay? And I'm just using that to dot in the center bit here, okay? And when I do this, when I'm not videoing it, so I will do all of the green. I'll stamp all 5. Okay, I usually do 5 at a time. Even if I'm doing both hands, I will just do 5 at a time just because it's an easy number to work with, and then you only have like one hand to deal with. I will stamp all 5 images, then I will color in using one color on all of those 5 stampers, and then I will go on to the next color and then the next color if I need to. So then final check, that looks okay. So I'm good with that, and then I set it aside to dry, okay? And when I reverse stamp, I let what's on the stamper dry completely, because what I do is I will either stamp that on still tacky polish. This time, because I did a gradient beforehand and then top coated it, this is not tacky at all. And I've done dishes since and put lotion on, so that is not tacky at all. So I'm just gonna apply a bit of Orly Bonder to this, and you can use any sticky base coat that you want. Some people like to use nail foil glue, and that works really well also. Sometimes though, I find that if you don't use a full nail image, sometimes the glue will leave streaks in the next thing after you top coat. So when I'm using partial images like this, I prefer using a sticky base coat, okay? So then I'm gonna go take one that I know is completely dry, okay? It's not the one I just colored in. And now I should be able to just line up how I want that to look, okay? And stamp that on. Okay. And I just hold it to the nail for a few seconds just to make sure that that image is adhering. All right, and just stick that down. All right, so that's really how easy it is. I can demonstrate with a couple more. This one I'm gonna go in the other direction. Okay. All right. Then same thing. And last one. And this one, because it's a smaller image and my liquid latex has started to come off because it's been a while since I put it on. Okay. I'm just really gonna concentrate on getting the big image on here. Okay. All right. And so I will remove the latex and clean up a little, and I am done. Thanks for watching.